Welcome to Techzine TV.
Welcome to Techzine TV. Today we have David Warshavski in our virtual studio. We're not at an event this time. Usually we are at events all the time. Now it's actually in our virtual studio. David, you're the Chief Product Officer for Tonic Security and one of the founders as well, right?
Yeah.
So, Tonic Security. I mean, there are at least 3,500 security companies in the market already. And you came out of stealth about a year ago, right? In July 25.
Yes.
I remember writing about you. I think it was somewhere in July. But so what's the who are you? Maybe that's the that's the first question.
Yeah. So and who am I? I think is very core to why we built Tonic. I mean, my co-founder.
Yeah.
My background is primarily incident response. I work for the majority of my adult life. I worked with companies, Fortune 500, Global 2000 companies, helping them defend against some of the most gruesome attacks we've seen. It's most, cybersecurity is a very bipolar world. Feels like it's only been so in the past 4 years, 4 or 5 years, maybe because of the war in Ukraine and obviously what's going on with the current geopolitical climate. But it actually, for the past 20 years, it's been a very bipolar world. Organizations, cyber criminals, nation state threat actors from the East attacking the West and vice versa. And as part of that, we played a role in helping organizations, companies, government and non-government across Europe, the US, Latin America, Southeast Asia, defend against attacks mainly from Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, some other culprits. But the usual suspects are these 4 that I mentioned. And I spent the vast majority of my adult life defending and hunting these threat actors. And many of the lessons learned from these campaigns led to the foundation of Tonic.
Yeah.
Especially.
So first of all, the name. Probably Tonic is a cleansing thing, so that's probably why you call it Tonic Security. I would imagine not after the drink, I would imagine, but yeah.
Well, opinions may vary. So yes, we all have gin tonic, that's for sure. But tonic used to be medicine, right? It's a refreshing thing, and we bring a refreshing take into cybersecurity. It's not all doom and gloom. It's very common in the industry to have the enemy is at the gates. It's true. But despite what is being commonly peddled by some of the vendors out there, the asymmetry between attacker and defender, there's a symmetry between defender and attacker as well. There's much that companies can do, even those who don't have hundreds of people in this, or even tens of people in the security team. There's so much they can do to repel even some of the more advanced attacks. And this is one of the refreshing takes that we bring into cybersecurity.
Yeah, so that probably also means that you're using a high degree of AI agentic thing, because otherwise you cannot promise this to companies that don't have tens of people or hundreds of people on their security teams, right?
It's true, but there are lots of nuances that go in here. It's not that the agents are replacing for people. Yes, skill shortage is one of the huge gaps we experience today. AI and agentic AI will help some of that. But it's also the agentic AI or the automations that will help organizations with the back to basics, making sure we get hygiene right, posture management right, rid of bad IT practices, and helping organizations focus on the things that have the highest impact. If you go back 10, 15 years ago, most organizations would not have a clue as to how their attack surface looks like. And I remember we used to say to ourselves, 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, well, what a time to be an attacker. So easy to breach companies and take over, right? Fast forward a couple of decades, things have changed. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. Companies don't have a shortage of tools. I would argue that the industry has created even more problems by creating an abundance of tools, and now security teams are facing more of what they know.
That's what I was starting with. That's what I was starting with the 3,500 security companies already on the market, right? Yeah, it can be very overwhelming, I think, as a vendor or as an organization as well.
It's overwhelming because one of the, I would say, maladaptive things that happen to the industry is that many of the vendors, the scanners, both on the reactive and the proactive side, found themselves in a shouting competition. We find the most critical this is critical, and when everything is critical, nothing is.
I always tell this story that I once went to 3 or 4 security events in a row, and they all told me that they found 35% of things that nobody else found. And then after the third or the fourth, I said, look, this gives me one big message, that you're all quite bad at what you do, because because apparently you all find a lot of things, you don't find a lot of things that you should find, apparently. So that's what you're pointing at as well, right?
Yes, and a big part of what we do, obviously prioritization is top of mind. Also the remediation, we'll talk about the move from just finding things to actually getting things fixed, which is the real bottleneck these days. But it's not just that it's the prioritization, it's also the deprioritization. Think about organizations, and most medium to large organizations have millions of findings that they think, oh my God, the enemy's at the gates and we're now playing whack-a-mole. That's not true.
Mm-hmm.
The vast majority of findings, vulnerabilities, alerts that organizations are dealing with are simply not critical, not important. They will have no impact on the organization. Some of them are false positives anyway, or even duplicates. But most organizations will not know that. And
do you think things like CVE and CVSS score do they help? I don't think they do, but I mean, I'm curious about your opinion on this.
No, they do not, and I think many organizations over the years turn this into a counting competition as to I can count the most CVEs. Then you just have a backlog of things that may not even impact the organization, and now we need to fix them. We don't know how, or if we do, there's now a bottleneck. And we talk to and this touches on one of the very key things that we've seen: incident after incident after incident that we responded to. Almost every incident that I responded to personally or oversaw as a recovery and remediation or crisis management of, when we did the post-mortem analysis, we used to say it's like tragic. The writing was on the wall. In most cases, I would say the vast majority of cases, one of the root causes of a breach won't be necessarily a 0 day or something they never seen. It will be something that was picked up by one of the tools, and they knew about it, but it was not prioritized accordingly, or it was stopped down or bogged down in remediation, which is tragic.
And then because there were so many, they didn't get to actually fixing it, even though
or they didn't know how. And I think to a large extent, AI, agentic AI, helps us accelerate teams and get them to fix things, not just count what needs to be fixed and then misprioritize. And that is but there are different layers to a threat, right? So there's a vulnerability in the first place, and then you can say, look, this can potentially be exploited or not. But it's not only about whether it's actually whether attackers are actually able to do it, but also whether they will do it, right? So there's a difference between an attack path and an exploit path in that sense. If that makes any sense. It does.
And that's a big thing as well nowadays, right?
Yeah, and so if in the past you used to have, okay, we're counting CVEs and maybe some are critical, some are not. And the past few years, also before Tonic was founded and some of those newer generation platforms existed, they would do some things like trying to understand the likelihood of the attack. Let's understand whether that's exploitable. Let's understand whether that's even reachable. But many of the tools failed it's at the gates. We don't know if a threat actor can actually leverage that to push the environment, and then what happens. And it's a very different story of then what happens. Not only that, is it exploitable is a big challenge to answer. Is it running in runtime? Is the vulnerable function even used in whatever a program that the organization is running, which is also a big challenge. And that's on the likelihood side. Not less important is the impact. We see so many cases where there is a vulnerability that if exploited, really nothing bad happens, in that sense that it's self-contained, it won't escape, it can be leveraged by a threat actor to move laterally and escalate privileges, and it doesn't touch any business critical systems. So the impact question here becomes something that is very elusive, and is one of the core things that we've cracked when we built Tonic. And we know this heavily based on our incident response experience, that when we did all these incident response, also working with teams and their day-to-day basis in between incidents, one of the core challenges that security and IT teams face is that they don't really know. It's very challenging for them to know at any given moment how their IT and security stack supports their main business processes. Much of that data is now found in the IT or security tools. It's found in the collaboration tools. Think Notion, Slack, Conference, Teams, ServiceNow, Salesforce, SAP, Conference, SharePoint, right? You have so much tribal knowledge, institutional knowledge that can be captured in the collaboration tools, going back years. And so there's so much you can understand about what happens to an asset if it's compromised or potentially disrupted. That helps.
Yeah, but then there's also probably the infrastructure of a company itself, right? That you need to understand when you talk about impact. So it was because I think that's what you mentioned as well. Some things may be exploitable, but don't necessarily can't really reach anything important. So that's but to be able to actually say that, you need to have insights into that infrastructure in the first place, right? Otherwise, you will never be able to say that.
You need to be able to understand at an intimate level the way that a particular organization works and operates. And I remember this for years. People would ask me when I wore my forensic or incident responder hat, hey, can you share some light about what makes some of the most lethal threat actors out there? What makes them tick, or why do they do how the things they do? And my response usually was, it's not about a fancy rootkit or bootkit or a set of tools. It's about their intimate understanding of enterprise IT and security per organization, their ability to understand what makes the business tick is what makes them lethal. And the defenders don't have the same capability. We need to level the playing field by providing defenders that intimate understanding of their own environment.
Yeah. So, so if you have to put Tonic security into a pigeonhole, because obviously we like pigeonholing, it's an exposure management platform formally, right? So that's the term that you're that you fall under, I would imagine. But so just I want to get a bit more insights into how the stack works. So I imagine you have a data fabric underneath, right, that connects everything to each other. We hear that from many vendors, at least I hear that from many vendors, that they have all sorts of interesting graph databases and data fabrics and what have you, and connect everything and see everything. What makes your data fabric better than other data fabrics?
So a couple of elements. First, we invested heavily in the ability to integrate at a very in-depth level to many of the collaboration tools the organization already has. So it's one thing to integrate and read structured data from IT and security tools, and obviously you have to take care of challenges around normalization, aggregation, schema alignment. That's still a challenge in 2026. But it's another thing entirely to tap into Teams, Notion, Slack, Conference, ServiceNow, some of those collaboration tools that house a lot of unstructured data. And then how do you ingest and extract business context, operational context, organizational context, find the owner, find a fixer? That's a big challenge these days. Many cases where something is not solved in time and then a breach happens because we didn't find the person that's in charge. But that's the same because the information exists, it's just highly distributed. So the ability to tap into that at scale and then extract it. Think about some of the complexities here. Entity extraction, co-reference resolution. If I have something that started in a conversation on Slack, but the end result is something that was answered in email or in a document in Conference, there's a challenge here in source and cross sources correlation of that elusive context. How do you determine business criticality? We have our own means of doing business criticality classification. Usually, and this is very interesting, you go out in an organization, any organization, and you ask, hey, who here has critical assets? It's a very natural tendency to say, I want to be important to the organization. So I have critical assets. A bit judgmental, isn't it? But think, if you had a history of thousands, tens of thousands of IT tickets, service tickets, provisioning tickets, what happened exactly when a user complained they lost access to a particular system? That's gold. That's a gold mine to understand business criticality, operational context of an asset, to understand what happens if this asset is compromised, if it's disrupted in any way.
So then you have the impact on the entire organization. That's the point, right?
Yeah.
So you use a lot of AI to actually make sense of all of this, I would imagine.
Yes.
And that's so. But when getting back to the data fabric, how does that? Is that something that you can tap into from somewhere else and say, look, I have a question about this. I want to know about this, or is this completely autonomous? And does it present things
So yeah,
to the solution?
An important distinction here: it's not an enterprise search. It's very similar to some extent. If you think about enterprise search engines, the more advanced ones that like Glean, Unleash, and so on, that basically I plug in whatever I can to the enterprise search engine, and then I, as the user of the enterprise search, can ask any question that I want on the information that I have access to. And I think a very trivial, banal example that some of those enterprise search engines use is, hey, what's like my vacation policy, blah, whatever. But a couple of the important distinctions, it's not about open question domain answering. I don't care about understanding everything about the world. I want to understand a smaller subset.
So it's not necessarily a tool that SecOps teams address and ask questions to, or a layer. It is the other way around, I would imagine.
We know. We've been with us for a long time. We know exactly what are the questions that the security team, the GRC team, the SecOps, vulnerability management, engineering, what are the questions that they ask in order to make a decision and then execute. And it's another important distinction. Yeah. The context that we provide allows us not just to enlighten or to provide profound insights about the environment, the IT and security environment. It's also about helping them execute much faster. And one example would be, hey, I want to be able to remediate a system that is vulnerable or susceptible to attack. I have the confidence, thanks to the context that we curate, Tonic, I have the confidence that I can update it at this time. It will not incur any downtime. There's no risk to critical business process. There's no risk of friendly fire. Very often we talk to security teams and we ask them, hey, what's holding you back from remediating or mitigating in time? If we are afraid that we'll get shouted at or we'll get screamed at because in the process of remediating or fixing something, we inadvertently brought something down, and then we're going to go, they're going to scream at us.
That's also very important, right? Because if you change something in one place, it can also mean breaking stuff somewhere else. So you need to have that insight as well in order to actually be able to do it.
Exactly, and so it's we like to think of ourselves as a decision and execution engine, and it can also feed automations. One important aspect of what we do is it's not just hey, we know we can patch this at this time and this will be okay. We can facilitate, and we do enable automations based on the very unique context that we curate. There's a beautiful use case here. We see the more advanced teams out there. They're building their own DIY agentic workflows. But agents, like humans, need context. They cannot operate without context. Imagine vibe coding an agent or whatever, agentic coding an agent, and that agent is able to rotate passwords, disable users, patch via an integration with another big fix or SCCM. But that agent needs to know whether by doing that, will it impact a critical business system, or they're good to go, or who they need to ask, who owns this in order to get to make a decision. We curate this context because we tap into, in the lower layers of the data fabric, we tap into the collaboration tools, Notion, Conference, Teams, Slack, and some of the others that we mentioned, that they contain a treasure trove of information that allows us to make decisions with confidence. That's the key element here.
Yeah. So it's both an insight layer and an execution layer. You also execute fixes, you execute remediations, and you make sure that the remediations actually do what they're supposed to do and not break anything else in the process.
Precise. And we built our own flagship. We have several agents under the hood, and we have our own flagship agentic workflow, the Tonic Mobilization Coordinator, which help orchestrate and in some cases fully automate remediation of some of these vulnerabilities in what we call low-risk scenarios. We have a high confidence that whatever remediation or automation will not bring down a critical business system, then we can safely execute. And in some cases, we also feed
So basically, if you're over a certain confidence level, you advise your customer to say, look, just switch on the automated remediation because that makes it much easier for you.
It makes it easier when we have lower confidence. Here we can integrate human in the human in the loop approval work chains, and with this lower confidence, say this is what we believe we should do, but FYI, double check with these owners that we've been able to service.
So, and what's the? I mean, obviously, do you have any insights into how much apart from actually fixing things, what the impact of using your solution is on the teams and on the organization. Because I'm being, I sometimes I say I'm being lied to a lot by people, which is probably part of my job description. Because a lot of people or a lot of companies tell me, oh, we will get you four alerts a week, and those are the only ones that because we've already done all the forensics and all the thing behind the scenes, so you don't have to worry about it. Some of them say, well, everything we fix everything automatically, and but when you talk off the record with people about this, no, there's still a million alerts in my environment waiting for me, even though they claim they can do everything automatically. So what are your promises towards customers in those terms? How do you make sure that they understand what's in it for them?
So, brilliant question. And there are several ways that we immensely help our customers. One is to remove a lot of the stress in dealing with the overwhelming amounts of things that they need to deal with on a daily basis. Ultimately, there's a very thin, narrow slice of findings, both left and right, that they need to focus on. The rest can be deprioritized. We provide the evidence for that, and that frees up a lot of their time and attention. And attention is really the currency here. The ability to get them focused on the strategic, not the day-to-day tactical things which can be automated, which lifts them up. Think about a security practitioner that instead of fighting, is trying to understand millions of findings on a daily basis, tens of thousands if they have some better prioritization mechanism. Now he's able to say, okay, I can suddenly lift my head up, get a better perspective, because much of that stuff is already gone down the prioritization pipeline. I have this narrow thing to do. I have the knowledge that I need, the data to automatically orchestrate this information, and I have time to deal with the stuff that I've been waiting, the important strategic elements of my job. There's something that, and this is one of the recurring feedbacks that we get, is that, hey, thank you for the added time. Now, time here has multiple aspects. One, again, they can focus on the important stuff. Second, time saved in cyber is not a productivity game. It's not about the CFO saying, oh, I saved a couple of hours. That's great. Time saved in cyber is preventing the next incident. We've seen this time and time again. When the security team has more time to focus on what matters, they have time to focus on those issues that will be the cause of the next breach. And that is something that, again, we see again and again and again. Thank you for showing us this thing that we know matters more than all those tons of other things that we do get on a daily basis, and saving us the time and sometimes the struggle and the friction with the IT team on fighting with them on what's important and what's not. We also provide this evidence to the IT team, for the DevOps team, for the developers.
Yeah. But also, what I could also imagine, if and when customers are convinced of what you can do and that it actually works and that they have the time back and then they see they're more secure than they used to be, that probably also gives them more confidence to deploy new stuff on the IT side as well, right? So if they say, look, I can imagine companies now saying, still being a bit on the fence about all the agentic things that are going on in the world, maybe because you're increasing your attack surface, and you're creating holes, you're creating leaks, because every API basically can be a hole, or every MCP server, But if you can be confident that even if something happens, it will be picked up, you can also make strides or make sort of advances in your business and in general, right?
Yeah, it's certainly. And one of the things that we help organizations, and we pride ourselves on, is to helping organizations excel and accelerate. And even sounds like a cliche, but to thrive. And they're trying to implement new technologies, especially AI adoption. There's something that's very true to this, is that the end goal of cybersecurity is to ensure business continuity. The end goal of cybersecurity is not to plug every hole. They will never plug, and an organization that tries to plug every hole will A, fail, and B, in attempting to do that, will prevent the business from accelerating, operating, thriving, and adopting new technologies. And one of the goals is to come in and say, hey, we can help you thrive. These are the things you need to focus on. The rest, ignore. Let the business accelerate. That's what you're here for.
Yeah. And how does this land at the security teams themselves, so the security practitioners who've been used to the old way of working,
Yeah.
because most security practitioners, in my experience, are very passionate people that want to plug every hole, right?
Mhm.
They want to basically, even though they know it's impossible, they start at the top, and then at 5 p.m. they say, look, this was it for today, and I'm going somewhere else. Or maybe they put in some overtime and do some more, but the list never ends. And I
Hey,
can imagine this is a completely different way of working for them as well, right?
it reminds me, there's a funny meme that's circulating a lot in cybersecurity where you see this old guy holding a mug as he's smiling, and it says like, "Hey, cybersecurity is not stressful at all." Jim, 25. He's like 25 years old, and he's old, wrinkled, no hair, and this speaks, I think, to one of the more problematic aspects of working in cybersecurity is that burnout is real, and it's even a bigger problem in cybersecurity than other domains. And I'm saying this because we see we see this sort of gap or discrepancy between some of the younger folks that are just entering and they're super enthusiastic. Everything they pick up, whether that's in training or whatever they did, they want to bring in, they want to make this super secure as they can. And some of the, I would say, older folks who have a lot of scars on the, on the backs,
Yeah.
where they say, okay, I know some of these battles are lost already. I need to choose my battles, and I want to survive. And there's a lot of it goes into that. And so what we're trying to do, and we are extremely successful when we deploy and we have the access to information, is say, you don't need to fix everything, and we're going to prove to you that this is the thing you need to focus on, and then go on and live your lives. You don't need to experience this excruciating burnout feeling that people get, because cybersecurity is inherently adversarial in nature. It's a tough fight every day protecting an organization. It doesn't have to, sometimes needlessly so.
So in general, you would say the reception is one of finally something that actually that doesn't make me burnt out, basically. Or do you also get some objections to it from people? You will always get that, right? That's
I got some beautiful emails and thank you notes about thank you for the time saved and more time spent with family and most time spending on the things I actually care about.
Yeah. So and just to put this into the security stack in general, so a perspective. So because this is it's vulnerability management, exposure management. It is, but you're also partly sort of reacting, so execution. So you can save, so you can fix things as well. Where do you put this in your existing stack? Can it replace existing solutions as well to a certain extent? So because listeners and viewers and readers probably want to know about this, because they don't necessarily want another line on their line item on their monthly bill, right?
Yeah, it's true. So what most organizations are looking for is basically for an orchestration layer. Tell me what needs to be done, and when the circumstances are right, do it for me. Now, that includes a lot of heavy lifting on in some cases, actually on the automation side and also on data collection side. But in a more practical way, yes, we can displace or replace some of the legacy tools, like the legacy scanner, Tenable, Rapid7, the Qualysys of the world, but also some of the newer kids on the block. Custodians, Armis in some extent, right? We'll happily live side by side depending on the operating model of the organization. But all organizations we work with need that orchestration layer where I have all this information. What do I do? And then do it for me when the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah. And by the way, Armis is part of ServiceNow anyway now. So yeah, and you connect with ServiceNow, so that's going to be it's really an easy one.
Yeah.
But can you also is it also the goal, or at least the strategy, to integrate with other layers of the security stack and maybe inform them better about what to do? So if you can immediately say, look, you can connect to a Palo Alto firewall and say, look, do something, or those agentic workflows are very important as well, right?
Yes. And there are some beautiful use cases we see here when we get to work with more advanced teams, and they tell us, hey, we're building our own DIY agentic workflows. That could be around identity or around firewall management or on change management. But We need your context. We want to
Mhm.
be able to make a decision and then execute. We want to build internally, which I love this. Really, I love working with builders. We want to be able to
Mhm.
execute with confidence. How can we have confidence changing a firewall or updating a password for a service account when we don't know what is the business operational impact? You do. So hey, let's connect to Tonic via whatever API or MCP server you choose, and we'll happily provide you with that information. Also for SIM solutions as well, we have all these alerts about all these assets and identities, but we have zero context into them. We don't know who they are. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know what's the business blast radius. One of the most eye-opening things we see when users use the platform is I finally understand the business blast radius, because by leveraging the context that we have, we can understand what is potentially compromised, what can happen if this is potentially disrupted, helping me then prioritize and execute.
So in that sense, you're not only a data fabric for your own solution, but for more solutions, and to a certain extent, right?
Yes. We're starting to see ourselves to some extent as a context engine, which is very difficult to curate. A lot of the heavy lifting goes into building those data pipelines that curate the unstructured data.
Yeah. So, and I mean, you've been out of stealth for about a year. I mean, it's almost time to end. Otherwise, we're going to be here for another 2 hours, I think. And we don't want to do that to the viewers and the listeners. Or maybe they like it. You never know. They can always reach out and do another one of 2 hours. It's fine. No, but what's the so you came out of stealth about a year ago. So how has the reception been in the market? And also, what are the next things that you're looking at in terms of solving? Because I imagine you being the chief product officer, your platform, your product isn't complete yet. So maybe what are the next frontiers that you want to go to? So first question first, and then the second question.
Because the reception has been sort of amazed that the pain point is real. We know this. We've experienced this in our flesh. One of the reasons why we chose to solve this, because we know some of the pain points, and this is based on our work we've done with the companies during incident response. The pain is real. And the reception has been amazing, especially our focus on providing that business operational context into helping them make a decision and execute, helping the
Have you gotten any feedback? Look, I'm interested in basically I'm interested in what you're offering, but I need this and this to actually be added before I can commit.
Yeah, yes, there are cases where, depending on the Maslow pyramid of needs of the organization, they would say, yeah, I got some basic stuff to take care of. And then I'll play, well, happy to help you whenever you can. Talk to us in 6 months. And then after 6 months, we talk, hey, you ready? Let's go.
Yeah.
Because obviously we come in when there's a lot of complexity, but we come in when the security is ready to make decisions and execution based on automations, based on much of the context that we curate.
Yeah. Can customers just deploy your solution, your platform, your product? I don't know what you call it. Do you call it the platform or solution or platform? Yeah. Sorry, that's always a sort of a touchy point sometimes. But no. But do customers, can they just deploy the platform and then as is in their org and in their infrastructure, or do they need to do some preparations to actually make sure that your platform lands correctly?
So it depends on the size and complexity of the organization and their own operating model. There could be various modes of deployment. In some cases, we would choose to deploy in their environment, leveraging their own tools, their own stack, their own models. We sometimes work with heavily regulated industries, and they don't want a single iota of information to leave the organization. And we'll happily cater to that. We'll deploy fully on-prem, leveraging self-hosted models as well. And we love those use cases because we want to help those teams get better.
Yeah. So you don't really care what the existing infrastructure is.
No, we'll be able to integrate with anything. Yes.
Okay. Well, I think that's important information to have, right? Because so sometimes it actually, but can they also, if they want to do it in the best way, or do you not care about that either? In terms of, could they do some things in advance to actually make sure they get most of it? They get the most of it from the get-go. When they deploy the platform, it doesn't really matter.
Need is like a very minimum set of tools that are available: scanners and EDR and ID ticketing system. Very small subset of system to show the value here, and then we can expand from there.
Yeah, because you obviously you need information. You cannot
Yeah.
conjure up information out of nothing. That makes sense. And then finally, what kind of customers that wanna do a talk or try out the platform, or are already customers? What can they do? What are the next frontiers that you're looking at?
The
Without
next,
divulging too much, probably, but yeah.
yeah, but the next frontier is really opening up to an ecosystem that can piggyback on top of Tonic and leverage that context. There's so much crucial information in what we collect, curate, and there's like a compounding effect, obviously, when you use it over time. And we want to make this readily available for either DIY solutions, and many are building these days thanks to vibe coding and the advancements we see there, and also to other vendors, other parties who want to leverage our context. We're happy to work with those, and we're working with some of those now to help them provide better solutions to their customers. And there are obvious synergies here that we want to leverage.
Yeah, so for that you need to adjust or maybe tweak your platform in some places to be able to actually deliver that.
Make it more open. I guess to make it more open in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's always a good sign, because at the end of the day, the entire security industry needs to work together as much as possible, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, the customers won't be helped all that much, and if we don't do that. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's about 36 minutes, so it was a bit longer than we anticipated, but it was a nice conversation. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
Anna.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, look forward to meeting you face to face whenever that is.
Likewise. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Techzine TV, the channel about enterprise technology that brings you IT insights and analyses from events all around the globe. We cover everything, everywhere. Visit techzine.eu for more written in-depth articles and analysis, or keep watching techzine.tv. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels and share your favorite videos with your colleagues. We'll see you soon.